Second story, what's driving India's binge eating surge? It's about all of us. I'm guilty as charged. I do that very often and I find reasons to do it. It's not like there is a particular trigger. I just invent a trigger. Stress, guilt and silence specialists say this combination is driving more people into binge eating. And the warning is extremely clear. Catch the early signs or the behavior can quickly spiral into a serious health risk. Why do people binge eat? Experts say many turn to food to deal with overwhelming emotions. Well, psychiatrists at SCARF, that is the Schizophrenic Research Foundation, say strict dieting makes the problem even worse. People binge, feel guilty, lose confidence and return to binging all over again. Many say regular meals, allowing favorite foods in moderation and mindful eating can help break the cycle. Whereas diabetes specialist centers say a binge episode every week for 3 months is an alarm bell. Reports point to studies showing binge eating contributes to up to 20% of type 2 diabetes. Proper diet and physical activity can prevent 50% of diabetes cases. For some, overeating is linked to deeper medical issues. Bariatric surgeons say gut hormones play a very vital role in hunger and satiety. Doctors first rule out psychological and medical causes to understand what's driving the behavior and then plan treatment to correct the imbalance. The message from specialists: know your triggers, act early and get help before binge eating turns into a chronic health problem. But for better on what actually drives the binge eating, let me now go across to the expert. Sudha Vasudevan, Senior Scientist and Head Department of Food, Nutrition and Dietetics Research, Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, Dr. Mohan's Group of Diabetes Institutions and Dr. Ravi Prakash, who's a psychiatrist. Thanks so much for making the time. Dr. Ravi Prakash, I binge eat and I don't need a trigger. I invent a trigger. Why is that? Dr. Ravi Prakash, can you hear me?
Hello, am I audible? I'm sorry, I just,
Yeah. It,
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So you started absolutely right, ma'am. Uh, Binge eating is almost universal, but not the binge eating disorder. The starting point of binge eating is what we usually call as emotional overeating. And emotional overeating is almost universal. We all, at some points of our lives, have realized that when we are stressed, when we are not having proper sleep, when we are physically tired, having some food, it increases our feel good factor. And that is called as emotional overeating. And that usually is benign, not much to worry about. But when it becomes excessive means scientifically speaking, studies show that when it is five, the carbohydrates intake is 5 times more than normal, or the lipid intake is twice as normal. If that is happening, then most probably you're going towards binge eating condition. And that when becomes a habit condition, then it's called as a binge eating disorder. Now, binge eating disorder, it affects several, different dimensions of a person's life. One of those you were talking about obesity and all, but actually it is related to everything: your body weight, your lipid profile, your self-esteem, your ability to regulate yourself. So, one part of binge eating is not only excessive eating, but also lack of control. When you start eating, you cannot control yourself from the excessive intake. So, there's a lack of control, and from there, the lack of self esteem. All these things they start coming in.
yeah, I'll ask you some
The
other
start.
question, the second one, which I also face. I'll come back to you. Sudha Vasudevan. I want to ask you, there is a mention of gut hormones which control hunger and satiety. Do you think it's a matter of habit? Because I was taught as a child to always get up from the table with stomach half empty and wanting to eat more but not eating. Well, the thing is that, is it different for different people? Because my gut hormones could be very different from my brother's or my mother's. I'm only talking about the genetic pool, as it were, not going to my partner at all. Is it different, Sudha? Does that even decide what I eat, how much I eat, and what makes my gut tell me enough? You have really binged today.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing me on this panel, Dr.
Thank you,
Sudha.
Sudha.
Thank you so much for the good, interesting question. First, one need not have the gut sense to eat about the food. So let me say that, but it's very individualized. More than that, today, as Dr. Ravi mentioned, it is the emotional. It is not just the distress alone. For example, wedding receptions, which is a buffet party. So when they know they go for the partying and when they say, oh, just one day. So they are so excited to see. It is the sight of the food and the smell, aroma. There are so many attributes that trigger your brain signal to stimulate appetite, So that is also a kind of a binge eating in that sense, frequent partying, attending those buffet parties and wedding receptions and so on. So the gut hormone, it is a control, it is the eating behavior. Yeah, it is good to have half stomach or three-fourth stomach stool. One should not feel full. So that is another thing. But it's a matter of getting into that habit to have a good, healthy gut. So it is not that gut hormone triggered people eat. It is the other way around. So when people have the sight and smell of the food, then definitely the gut hormone gets triggered. So it is both ways that behavioral change is also needed. And accordingly, it can be tuned and the brain signal to the gut hormone secretion. It can secrete more of the healthy gut hormones to make you feel satiety. But sometimes in the urban life, typically you see people do not eat only when they develop hunger. It is morning till, I think even the last call I said that is every 2 hours in the meeting I'm served with coffee and tea. I don't feel hungry at all, but still it is served. I rather feel like taking it along with that. So this kind of excess calories being thrown in a feasting mode of our body system and metabolic state. So it is not just the gut hormones alone, it is the eating behavior and the social context, a bigger picture, where it exposes every individual to go to some form of binge eating, not just only when they are stressed or feeling guilty or self-esteem. So this excess calorie and frequent exposure to such social gatherings and frequent intake itself is in a form of binge eating. So to train the gut, one should have a discipline and a self-control, and it needs a lot of individualized eating habit corrections.
Dr. Ravi, I want to come to you, and I said I'll ask you the other question. For any kind of gap in my life, and I'm making it very personal. Today, you as my colleague shouted at me, I didn't shout back at you. Today, I was supposed to go meet my friend, he stood me up. My son spoke very badly with me. For everything, I need food which compensates for all this. So I have never eaten food which is like, okay, let's just have this. No, every meal of mine is designed. Do you think people like me, and a lot of people like me, now I don't eat huge quantities, I eat little, but do you think that is also kind of, filling a gap for what is called emotional weaknesses in a person?
Yeah. That is what I was implying earlier. There are different kinds of distresses, and this sense of gap, persistent gap, this is one of the most dangerous ones actually. So it leads to binge behaviors. Binge eating is one of them, but there are other behaviors also: binge shopping, binge activities. Those things can be there. The emotional component, why it triggers food intake, there are several theories and several reasons behind it. But the common sense understanding, what I will tell you is that any emotional distress is a negative state of mind, and want positive state of mind over the course of time. But the getting the positive state of mind is not as easy as we think. There is no other alternative. And food being socially very well accepted, there is even a saying, khate pite ghar ka and all these. So these things, socially, we have been made to believe that food is one of the ways by which we can very easily, tackle the distress. And it is not wrong entirely, I would say. Healthy food, mindful eating, slow eating, and eating with the proper understanding of the calorie intake and balanced diet, that may still work actually in many cases. So the disciplined part of eating is very important, but
Okay.
eating just like that, just for the sake of eating, that will become a problem.
Sudha, I want to ask
Habits.
you, yeah, okay, sorry, Dr. Ravi. Sudha, I want to ask you something, that you say that if you have a plate full of once in a while your favorite dish, that also helps in you not binge eating. I meet people these days socially who say they've not had a laddu in a year. They say their children who are 6 and 7 have never tasted cake in their lives because of sugar. Even during festivals like Deepavali or other festival, they say nothing. We just pray, we sit at home. You can have some savories. I feel this is deprivation, because even very famous dietitian Rujita Devekar says, and I follow her, so I'm going to quote her here, that have that laddu once in a while. It helps your mind, it helps you as a person. I may like laddu, you may like Mysore pak. Once in a while, I think we need to put it in our mouths so that the next time I see laddu, I will not eat half a kilo of it. Do you agree?
True. It's very, very true. I think we also call it as a cheeky days, like if you are on a very restrictive diet, we do allow even once a week you take something of your favorite. So that doesn't has a, it's like a suppressive desire cumulatively, and it just erupts one day. As you've never seen laddu before, you whack so much of laddus. So it is good to have that once in a while. Certainly it is not at all restrictive. One should definitely have so that it satisfy their desire. And this kind of a binge eating where they are cut off is typically, if you see, they are all high in fat or high in sugar or high in salt. It's a crunchy food. That is where the binge eating, when they look that as their stress or trauma, as a food, as a companion for them to share their trauma or stay their whatever their psychological problem. So when it is close to the heart, then probably one should consider giving an alternative if it is going to be so frequently an event, when they want something crunchy, when they want something tasty, salty. So you can have alternative crunchy snacks, like it could be a salad sticks, or it could be some dry roasted nuts as a crunchy, some healthful options, that even a dried fruit with no added sugar, which gives them a sweet taste. Those kind of a things are definitely are a better alternative, and definitely no harm in taking once in a while laddu or kaju katli
What
or
you
Indian
say
sweets
is,
as well.
very, very true, dry notes. But then can you imagine a cheesy burger hot in your hands? And,
Yeah.
that is the thing about how do you say no to it, because it's bordering on binge eating. I'm taking a break here, both doctors, and I'm going to come back in a moment. Please don't go away. Okay, that's what we are discussing. What's driving India's binge eating surge, as it were, and we are joined by Sudha Vasudevan and by Dr. Ravi Prakash, who's a psychiatrist. Dr. Ravi Prakash, I've seen a lot of people lose almost 50 kilos and then come back with 60 kilos. And when they were 50 kilos, they stopped eating a lot of things, no binge eating, nothing, just one grape, as it were. And they lived with that, felt healthy, they could climb stairs. But back to square one. So it's all in the mind, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The cognitive factors, behavioral factors, they play a big role. I would say that over the course of time, the most important thing would be discipline. Whether it is, immediately that you want to lose weight or slowly over the course of time, there will be different kinds of regimes for weight loss and everything. And the in the same thing, in the weight loss regimes, the food intake is also one of the important parts. And it is, if it is pre-planned and if it is properly executed by a nutritionist, if you're taking someone's suggestion like that, and If sometimes it is really out of control, maybe psychiatric treatment, clinical psychological treatment, and all these things, when combined together, it empowers the person to take the necessary steps at necessary points of time. Now, here, Madam was telling a very important thing, the cues. Cue of the sight, the smell, the touch, the people around you having something like that. And the cue, when they come to you, it's very difficult to control. And at that time, you may have to execute things like withdrawal from the situation, or aversive techniques, or mindfulness techniques, relaxation exercises, trying to use self statements. These are all behavioral and cognitive techniques which people can use. But at the end of the day, even if you know it will not work, if you do not imply it within seconds. So discipline is what matters the
All
most.
right.
It is
Okay.
not the knowledge, it's more about how
All right.
persistently you execute the techniques.
Sudha, I want to ask you, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, he binge eats, his father was like that, grandfather also used to eat, his uncle was also like this. Do you think it's genetic? I don't agree, but I'm asking you because taste can be genetic. I've seen it in my family, chilies, some of us like it. We like the same kind of food, the same kind of quantity. You'll be amazed, Sudha. I eat just like my mom. You know, so the thing is that, is binge eating also genetic?
It is more than, I would say, that we follow the cooking style and preparation generation after generation. We cut, copy, paste grandma's recipe and so on. It is more than the genetic, it is the family style of cooking preparation. And you're exposed to so much of chilies right from the beginning. That's what one gets used to. The cooking also runs in generations, right? They don't copy paste the physical activity, they copy paste only grandma's recipe. So obviously, it is a lot to do with the way preparation styles and so on. It is not just the genes alone matter, it is more to do with the environment. So if the family has a habit of preparing once or twice a week sweets, and every time the family always have the namkeens and snacks always on the counter and it is available in the house, that is what it is attracts the people. So every meal they look for a sweet taste. So that is a cultural habit in the family that runs. So every meal they end with a sweet. So that pass on from the generation after generation. That is equally or more important than whatever little genetic influence that can possibly have it.
On that note, thank you very much, Dr. Ravi Prakash and Sudha Vasudevan, for joining us on this very important debate which concerns me, which concerns you, and which concerns a lot of us. But then why even worry? There are ways to tackle it.